Okay, good afternoon. I'm David Dennis, I'm CEO at Tapton Trust. It's going to be a pretty strange presentation because there's very few slides because we've only been in Bromcom for 10 weeks. So lessons learned are going to be interesting. Adrian's going to talk more about the detail. I'm going to talk about the big picture about why. So this is our trust. Now, we're 8 schools. We've been in operation since 2011. But what probably the biggest feature of the trust was the lack of alignment. So those 8 schools are very, very different. So if I take you through some of these, this part of Sheffield is, if you like, privileged. Tapton School has about 1,800 children, high performing, high levels of advantage, very diverse, high levels of BAME and multiple backgrounds. This is Hallam School, most recently Ofsteded, done very well. Then our next set of schools are up here in the north of the city, probably the most disadvantaged part of Sheffield. High levels of white, 3rd, 4th generation worklessness. And one of those schools, Chaucer School, has been in and out of special measures over the last 20 years. So a very, very diverse trust. Here is our newest kind of group of schools around Forge Valley in Stannington area of Sheffield, kind of blue collar, white collar area. And within there, we've got one primary school which has barely one form entry. So that diversity in terms of expectation, background, cultures is enormous. And that level of diversity more or less defined Tapton Trust at the start of this year. I took over from being head teacher at Tapton in September as CEO. So what we've tried to do, and the reason why Bromcom was so important, is it was a vehicle to help drive that alignment across our trust. Because what we had 8 schools operating in 8 different ways. And the driving force for that was the commitment from Tapton School to support Sheffield. So that was the big impetus about why we had Tapton School Academy Trust. We didn't set up to do anything other than that, other than to bring that support. From being a national support school, a teaching school, all those kinds of features. It's been a very interesting year in terms of that, but the alignment, both operational and strategic, has been the key aim for everything that we've been about since that point, whether it's a new trustee setup. And now, with Bromcom, it was that vehicle to jettison some of the historical baggage, all of which was then, I mean, all 8 schools were SIMS schools, but SIMS can be used in a whole different ways with many staff using different workarounds. So all that it allowed was multiple cultures. And I wasn't happy with those multiple cultures. Now, we'd started that process all the way through the autumn term into the spring term, and then we were looking for something bigger, and that's where we were looking then to Bromcom to take us to that next stage.
Thank you. So it didn't really need both of us to come, but I just wanted the trip down to London today, so I kind of said we'll do it, but my part is fairly brief, I guess. One thing we kind of made the headlines last year with one of our students. He's currently in year 13, but when he was in year 12, Miles was doing some work, and part of what we do within the trust is try to engage with outside bodies for financial reasons, for lots of reasons actually. And one of those is we are the Northern Hub for the Institute of Research in Schools. And through that we're processing data from the International Space Station, and students are engaged in kind of big data projects looking at that. We also have some technology companies, WANDisco, for instance, in Sheffield, who also engage with us in that kind of work. Miles found an error, a number of errors, that offset 0 errors in the NASA data, which he reported to NASA, and they accepted and said, yeah, you're right, there is that issue. Tim Peake retweeted that, and it was hit. It was hit over 2 million times. So the irony was that Tapton School could find problems with NASA data, but we had absolutely no idea where we were across 8 schools, which are literally 20 minutes drive between. So, one trust, as David said, 8 schools, 8 solutions. So we did in there have everyone working independently, and that was doing two things. One, it was not driving alignment, anything but it was also costly. And so even at 8 schools, we could see that there were big potential savings for us. So in primaries, we were using an assessment tool, Stat Online. The schools had actually helped to develop that tool in Sheffield, but didn't like it. It didn't do what they wanted to do. They wanted to adapt that. It was fit for purpose at the time, no more. And again, they needed something different to that. And again, expensive. Parents' evening booking, parent pay and CPOMs. Different, though, in each one. Even in the primaries, they were not in each school, and they were not the same. So they'd gone into different contracts at different levels, and so that was both expensive and taking a lot of resource just to run those systems. In secondary, we had an assessment tool, 4Matrix. We've probably tried them all. We've had CISRA, we've had 4Matrix, we've had our own Sheffield solution. We've built lots of spreadsheets, and a lot of things that resonate for me this morning are the simplicity of what we need. We've bought into things where perhaps only David, and less so myself, could understand what it all did. And for staff, we were just saying, just use this tiny part. You don't need to look at that. And that, again, causes issues because people don't do that. They look and get confused. Show My Homework we had, again, very expensive, so we can afford it in one school and not another. It's brilliant. We loved it. But again, the other side of that is for parents then, you're logging into multiple areas. So again, that GDPR will send you a login for this and that and trying to maintain all of those. Parents' evening booking again, CPOMs again, parent pay. And then our own workarounds. As David said, one of the things that we were finding with Capita Sims is that it wasn't fit for purpose. And so not being able to adapt meant we had lots of workarounds. And when it came to GDPR and things like that, we did recognise that they were completely non-compliant in anything but. So even just SMS messages. We are in Sheffield. Some of our schools are above the snow line. So SMS is quite important to us. We're open, no, we're not. I kind of live, unfortunately, I'm Director of Standards and the head teacher at David's old school at Tapton. And I have to be there at 10 to 6 to ring David to say, it's not snowing, it's about a foot deep, we're probably all right to open late. Then 10 minutes later, something else. And so messages are...
I think you live on the snow line.
Messages are quite important to us. So as David said there, not meeting our needs, not providing the overview, not supporting. Obviously, you get new trustees and they want things. They want answers and they want those quick. David did set us a very simple task to just get some data that has been described this morning on HR, on finance, and it took each school around 4 days per school to just put that together. And it was totally unreliable because what one person thought was attendance of a member of staff and another school, oh no, that's holiday, that's this, that's the other. It was useless really. So we spent a lot of time putting together something that we knew didn't do. And again, I guess we came to this again from another cost, Novacious Questa. So I think David will talk about that.
Well, just a few points on this. It takes a bit of bravery as well because the Office 365 solutions that we developed in Tapton, we'd invested a lot in. And so to jettison those things which you've held on to dearly takes a bit of bravery, but you've also got to step up and say, is it worth it? Is it delivering? And is it sustainable over time? That day last year when I sent out this request for information, it was like a tsunami running through the trust. I said, I need this information. And it wasn't complex. It was around segmentation by different learner groups. It was performance. It was attendance. It was the things which every head teacher should just know and have there. But just to consolidate it just caused such ripples that I thought something more profound needs to happen. And that's where this search came from. So why Bromcom? Firstly, I have to say that Jason was quite persuasive. And he offered the earth and beyond. So that was quite important. But I do think that the things here, the one-stop shop was something we could see that over time using the app, particularly for some of our hard-to-reach parents who were not going to engage with paper resource, they wanted something that they could use on their phone. So that's a big saving over time. We're not there yet, 10 weeks in, The app's still not out there, but I can say quite happily that I think it's going to save us over £10,000 just in printing costs alone. But it will also build better relationships with more vulnerable families. In terms of the core team, we've consolidated. We used to have data managers in each of the secondaries and across the primary school. That we now have one data manager. And that's moving to this system has allowed us to align, not just in terms of savings, but we've aligned our assessment calendar, we've aligned what we're going to track. We've got certainty, I have certainty, that what's being measured in Key Stage 3 is what I think is being measured in Key Stage 3. And at the same time, we've gone to one timetabler, the principles are there, and that timetabler reports directly to me. So the efficiencies around each timetable, whether it's contact ratios, whether it's use of appropriate use of PPA time, all those things are consolidated. Other things that have been there, clearly it's not been the best time to change MIS because the GDPR period that we've been going through has been quite intense. Adrian used to have a full head of hair a few weeks ago. The opportunity for collaboration with others, I mean, I have to say that the support that we've had from Harris has been really helpful in terms of helping us through this. And that interconnection across the Bromcom group of schools really gives you that kind of impetus. Driving the alignment in the curriculum assessment, alignment has been a really important part of that. Working as a development partner, Adrian started by talking about the Sheffield Stat, which has been the primary solution for assessment, which is not fit for purpose. We know what we need, and it's been useful to engage in that development with Bromcom in terms of developing a tracking tool which is suitable across the whole of the primary phase. And then the last thing for me is around accountability. So the possibility of moving to the Power BI, Map Vision solution by being able to consolidate all that data, I absolutely need my new set of trustees who come from a very business-savvy world, many of them from a banking sector. They need that certainty because they're the questions that they're asking me. And at the moment, if I go back to September when I first took over and I asked for that information, it was a tsunami going through the trust, and I need to have it at my fingertips all of the time. So cost savings, yes. I can't say to you exactly where those cost savings are at the moment, and this is one of those things that you've got to go with, because different schools are in different stages of their contract and different places of readiness. What we are is we're putting that incubator in place for each of the parts of Bromcom so that we can roll them out with the successors when schools are ready over the next sort of 15 months. Thank you.